afterwards. I'll send out the follow-up to this panel sometime next week, so be a little bit patient with me, but I'll get you the recording slides that were shared and any other resource materials, links, and things mentioned throughout the event I'll send as well. So, and contact for our panelists and that sort of thing. So be prepared for that. Even if you can't be here, those that registered will get the follow-up email. And I want to thank everybody for being here. This is day four of Affordable Housing Week in Pierce County, and we're really excited to have this this panel of esteemed panelists. Today we're going to be focusing on safe and stable communities, supporting children and families through affordable housing. We're going to be discussing the critical intersection of affordable housing and child welfare and family stability. So it's going to be a really good conversation. I'm going to talk about our sponsors for a second. This panel specifically was sponsored by United Way of Pierce County and Southport Financial Services. And I'd like to also thank our titled sponsor, U.S. Bank, for sponsoring the entire week of Affordable Housing Week. I would like to also start off with the land acknowledgement. We gratefully honor and acknowledge that we rest on the traditional lands of the Puyallup people. The Puyallup people have lived on this land since the beginning of time. They are still here today. They live, work, raise their children, take care of their community, and continue to practice their traditional ways. We recognize that this land acknowledgement is just one small step towards true allyship and commit to uplifting the voices, experiences, and histories of the Indigenous people of this land and beyond. We want to acknowledge the histories in dispossession and forced removal and reflect on the histories in ways that honor the memory of those dispossessed and keep us committed to the cause of social justice in Indigenous populations. So like I said, today is day 4 of Affordable Housing Week in Pierce County. We still have one more panel that's going to be tomorrow. Tonight, we also have our closing reception, doing it on Thursday because Friday's a little bit more dicey for people to show up. So yeah, if you can make our reception tonight, it's going to be really, really fun. There's going to be food, beverages, things for sale, raffle things, and lots of networking with like-minded people you've seen in these panels. It's going to be a really good time. I'm going to put this link in the chat. For you. And so just to set up a little bit, today's event's going to be a panel style discussion. If you've participated in our panels throughout the week, you know this, you know, the way this is going to be run. But to explain, I'm going to briefly introduce our panelists for today, and then let each of them have about 15 minutes or so to speak. Some of them will be sharing slides with you. Some will be prompted with questions by me. So hopefully that'll create some more engaging discussion. After each panelist has some time to speak, we will open up the whole room for everybody to have discussion, throw in their questions, and interact with our panelists. So, and right before we dive into our discussion, let me please introduce myself, my organization. My name is Casey Twiggs, and I'm the membership coordinator for the Tacoma-Pierce County Affordable Housing Consortium, and I'm excited to be your host. The consortium is a nonprofit membership-based agency, and we provide public education, advocacy, and support for the expansion of affordable housing throughout Pierce County. One way that we do this is by educating the public on the need for affordable housing, by hosting virtual discussions such as this one, other special meetings, and collecting data to share with the public on the need for housing and local policy. We also advocate at the state and local levels for policies and funding that support the creation of more affordable housing, as well as bolster the work of our members. And so affordable housing is not just about providing shelter. It's about creating environments where families can thrive. Research consistently shows that stable, affordable housing is essential for positive child development and family well-being. Yet millions of children in the United States live in low-income households where housing affordability is a significant concern. Affordable housing is closely intertwined with child welfare and family stability. In the 2020 and 2022 school year, 3.1% of Pierce County students were homeless, with 7% of homeless households being families with children. Staggering. In the Tacoma School District, there were 2,659 students unhoused or doubled up, with a significant portion being unaccompanied youth or in foster care. These statistics underscore the urgent need for addressing affordable housing to ensure the safety and stability of our children and our families. So today we have an esteemed panel of experts who will be shedding light on the challenges and opportunities in supporting children and families through affordable housing initiatives. Their insights will guide us in understanding how we can create safer, more stable environments for our community's most vulnerable members and our children. So on this panel, we have three esteemed panelists. We have Emily Slagle, Executive Director at Communities and Schools of Tacoma. We have Taj Jensen, Director of Student Services at Tacoma Public Schools, and Greg Williamson, Housing Manager at Washington Department of Children, Youth, and Families, DCYF. So we are going to go in order, and we're going to start with Emily.
Let me at least turn my camera on.
Yeah, I'm
got
gonna have one moment, and I will share your slide.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and get going. Thanks, Casey, and the Affordable Housing Consortium. I'm happy to be here. Hi, everyone. So as she said, my name is Emily Slagle. I'm excited to be here. A little bit about me. So I've been in this role for about 2 years. Came to CIS of Tacoma with over 16 years of experience in executive youth development, but started my career with the Department of Corrections, actually working on McNeil Island at the prison, which is how I got into youth development in the first place. Strange path, yeah, but hear me out. I spent 8 years working in the recreation department there, and focused a lot of my time on family programming. I learned a lot about the individuals who were there, and wanted to see first, and actually what I saw firsthand was many Black and brown young men coming in at a very, very, very young age. And unfortunately, that system is still broke, but that's a whole different panel. And after 8 years of being there, and listening to countless stories and asking a million questions, I wanted to find a way to make a difference outside the walls. And I landed in the nonprofit world working with youth and finding ways to ensure their success and access to opportunities, which is why I'm still in the youth development work. So obviously that lands me on the Zoom here today with you. So before I get into the community, into communities and schools, I do want to be very transparent with you and say that I did prepare remarks today, and I will be reading them because I honestly should not have free reign. I don't do well in that area. So just keeping it 100 and just bear with me. So I do want to read it to you. So Communities and Schools is a nonprofit organization that has been around since 2001. We're currently a small team of 11, but we'll be a team of 14 in the next academic year. We exist to surround students with the community support, empowering them to stay in school and achieve in life. Struggling students and their families have a hard time accessing and navigating the maze of public and private services. While there may be ample resources in a community, rarely is there someone on the ground who is able to connect these resources with the schools and students who need them most. So we do this through having school-based site coordinators that bring in the local support and resources into the school and work to do whatever it takes to ensure students, regardless of the challenges that they may face, have what they need to be successful in school and beyond. So we work in partnership with Tacoma Public Schools, and this is our 23rd, I think, academic year with Tacoma Public Schools. And we have school-based site coordinators right now in Arlington and Fernhill Elementary, Gray and Stewart Middle School, Oakland and Mount Tahoma High School, Willie Stewart Academy, and then next year we'll also be in Lincoln High School, which we're really excited about. More specifically, site coordinators at each school assess school and student needs. They identify gaps and then connects the school and students to an integrated set of resources designed to meet these needs. Through strategic partnerships then with local providers, our site coordinators bring together various community resources and provide integrated student supports, either benefiting the entire student body, which is a tier 1, or a whole school support. And then they actually then simultaneously, they work with the school support team that is comprised of school administrators, teachers, and counselors to identify a subset of the most at-risk students who then receive targeted small group and or individualized interventions, which is a tier 2 or tier 3. And that's based on their needs. For our individualized interventions or case management, our site coordinators manage a caseload of at least 40 students each year. So this year, collectively, we are working closely with 276 students across our sites, and those students are receiving targeted interventions and integrated student supports, and some of that could be access to affordable housing. The students that we prioritize are students who present with academic or behavior or attendance needs. Many have multiple adverse childhood experiences. Often their basic living and social emotional needs aren't being met. They typically live in poverty or exposed to violence, addiction, and other issues that keep them from being mentally available to focus on learning when they step into a classroom. Our objective is to mitigate and remove those root problems that preclude them from learning. Our current data shows that students receiving our tier 2 and tier 3 supports are 70% of students of color, and 96% are eligible for free and reduced lunch. Integrated student supports are uniquely based on the needs of each student and their family. We work hard to meet the needs of the students and their families, and we try to meet them exactly where they are. Examples of these integrated student supports are like supports around attendance, behavior, coursework, parent engagement. We do a lot of basic needs work with food, clothing, hygiene items. We also broker transportation, mental health support, and then again, even access to, or we broker housing support. Site coordinators have even accompanied students and families to support meetings as translators for those with language barriers. They have supported adjudicated youth to court and probation hearings, help students get access to mental health counseling, even referring families to partners with access to the Homeless Prevention and Diversion Fund, so some of our families can stay housed and even find stable housing. As a team, when we talk about the impact of housing within our work, we find a few issues are at play. I mean, obviously, the system is at play. There was a lot of runaround for families with language barriers. There's also seemed to be too many lists to be on, too many phone numbers to call or emails, phone calls that are not being answered. Immigrant families are terrified to put their names on paperwork for fear of being separated from their children. Some students even work early in the morning with their parents to make enough money to pay rent or to keep their lights or heat on. You can imagine how tired those students are as they move through their school day and then do the sports in the afternoon and then start that process all over again. We do have those students who do that. Students and their parents and caregivers have a hard time figuring out how to navigate those systems. And so our site coordinators build relationships with them to be those connectors, to really teach them how to navigate those systems safely and hopefully in a way that everyone can win. In preparation for this, I actually had sent out an email to our site coordinators to really gauge, like in real time, like what they are seeing. And so I've gotten a few quotes that I like to read directly from them. So a site coordinator at one of our middle schools who is bilingual and of Hispanic culture shares her experience this year regarding housing. So to quote her, she says, the Latino demographic percentage at school is large. I believe it's around 40% this year. A lot of the families I serve on my caseload are considered homeless by McKinney-Vento standards because they are doubled up, meaning our students are living with aunts and uncles and other relatives, which is very common in Hispanic culture. Although housing is unaffordable to some of them, there is also a lack of accessibility because of language barrier. A lot of families have been taken advantage of because they don't know their rights. They fear their immigration status will interfere with their qualifications to housing. Being Hispanic and bilingual helps me work with those families through CIS by referring resources and brokering them. I'm also able to connect those families with each other who may also have other resources available. And in some cases, just me being able to be an interpreter and answer their questions has been a blessing. At one of our high schools, the site coordinator there struggles with getting students into shelters. Here is what he shared with me. We have a lot of students there that are McKinney-Vento. As many resources we have, as many of the resources we have access to, sometimes it's hard to get students into shelters due to the lack of space or age. This creates an issue for our students due to not having a secure place to sleep. I understand that there is a process when it comes to shelters and housing. Some students I've talked to say they didn't get a good rest and can't focus in class due to lack of sleep. Some of our students are doubled up with other families and have to adjust to a new environment, which sometimes makes it hard to get schoolwork done. As a site coordinator, I try my hardest to try and get them into a shelter, but I do not always have luck getting them in immediately, which takes a toll on them in their mental state. I know that soon there will be a faster, more efficient process to make sure we get students into a great environment where they don't have to worry about where they are, where they can get rest and focus on what they need to do to be successful. Additionally, one of our elementary site coordinators shared that homelessness in Seattle seems to be rising. There's not enough options, and South Tacoma seems to be rising. There's not enough options for those who do want housing. We see so many with mental health issues. My biggest concern is for families that are just one paycheck away from being homeless. Our homes here are not set up for multifamily. I know so many families with 6 to 9 family members that are living in a 1-bath, 2-bedroom apartment. An additional site coordinator at the other elementary school indicates how unstable housing impacts basic needs and academic performance. He shares that there is a 1st grader and a 4th grader who live with their mom. They are currently at an extended stay hotel. Stable housing resources have been tough, but I give them shoes, coats, hygiene products, school supplies, and food. They also signed up for after-school programming, but didn't have transportation. One of the counselors knew this, and we connected them to a first student bus for after-school pickups. Their behavior has been good according to their teachers, and that's what I've seen as well. The boy, who is the 1st grader, is on par with his reading academics, but he's a grade behind on his math. The girl's math score is also 1 grade behind, and her reading scores are actually a few grades behind. So as the executive director, when I have these meetings or when I get these things, it's really hard to see this stuff, but I find a lot of solace in knowing that this is how we show up. Like, this is the work that we do. Like, we can identify these things. And so I'm so happy to be on this panel to learn more about like the voucher system and the things that are going to be put in place so that we can continue to connect our families with just all of these resources, right? And hopefully we can get them housed more.
Thank you, Emily. Yeah,
Yeah.
you've touched on and it's clear that we have the right people on this panel because you touched on and mentioned 2 different things that are going to be spoken on by our next 2 panelists. McKinney-Vento and those vouchers. So yeah, it's and it's so true too. I've seen it personally when I did some substitute teaching back in Georgia. I mean, I saw 3rd and 4th graders and younger and a little bit older, but you can see it when kids don't have enough sleep or maybe their parents, their guardians are working 3rd shift, so they don't have a lot of guidance and structure. And so, maybe they stay up and do whatever they want kind of thing as kids will do, but they have to go to school and they're exhausted. And that's goes into other problems such as that can be misunderstood by teachers and other parents or other students as misbehavior or, all those things. And it's coming from, particularly a lack of services.
Yeah.
So
and what's really cool about having our site coordinators in the schools that we're in is that we have the ability, having the relationship with those students, we get those stories. And so we know, and so we're able to share that with the teacher to be like, hey, this is what's going on. And so there is that connection too, of just like, oh, we know what's happening with student A at home, right? Like, we know now that this is the situation and this is why the student might be acting this way or grades might be going down, and so then we can all rally together to make sure that student is more successful.
Yeah. You guys are at a social work intersection as well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Emily. That was very informative. And I think we have made you speak long enough, and we will move on, and we'll have more. I know I've got a couple more questions for you when we all have that opportunity in a little bit, and I'm sure others do as well. And also, just so everybody in the room knows, this is an opportunity. If you hear any of our panelists or anybody in the room speak of something that's interesting to you, or you want to learn more, that the chat is for you to utilize. You can unmute yourself when we have the audience discussion and network with these panelists, offer your resources, offer your insight.